Oh, boy. And now we come to the main event. Speaking of who the fuck is that guy supposed to be? El Hijo del Vikingo was matched up with Twinkle Toes with his manager, El Hijo of a show. What the This was a dream match because it was supposed to happen in Mexico 2 years ago and it got canceled. And so now Tony's brilliant idea is to put it on national cable television and tell people a week ahead of time, oh, it's a dream match with El Hijo del Vikingo. And everybody go, who? Except for the fucking most tuned in, dedicated people who go, oh, he's from Mexico. No angle, no promos, no, they did a package with the guy flipping.
But on this show, they didn't do that last week to build up this match.
When the people were already in the building, they went around and said, would you like to buy a ticket? This 25 minutes was left on the air when this thing started. And I was like, oh, God. I've never seen El Hijo del Vikingo. When he came out, his outfit looked like Mantar and Captain James T. Kirk had a baby. Furry horns on top and a Starfleet tunic. Am I lying?
No.
And the tunic he had to keep pulling down all through the, was this his brand new Sunday go to meeting clothes he had made? He's never worn this before. So bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, who were lucky enough not to have witnessed this, El Hijo del Vikingo is 5'3" and about 140 pounds, and he's wearing a full body outfit that he was trying to think would add about 20 or 25 pounds to him. He was barely taller than the top rope, and he is, as one would expect, a gymnast with a stone face that would make Gargano or Buster Keaton proud. And it looked like one of Kenny's matches with a 9-year-old. And you know, somebody actually on Twitter, when I retweeted one of the clips here a week or so ago, somebody passing around of, well, here's Goofball in one of his greatest moments. They thought that I was actually saying he was wrestling people in Japan the size of 9-year-olds, but they couldn't fathom that I said, no, he's having professional wrestling matches with 9-year-olds. And they saw that fucking tape and they said, oh my God, you weren't lying. This is what that looked like. It's, again, El Hijo del Vikingo is a great gymnast. He did all kinds of flipping cannonballs and things. He reminds me of that Reggie that was on the WWE for a while. They got from Cirque du Soleil. He's tiny and did a bunch of wonderful acrobatic flips, but he didn't know how to fucking wrestle, and you couldn't take him seriously if he'd learned because he was fucking minute. This was a video game wrestling match where they did a series of moves with no relation to each other, back and forth. The amount of time that Kenny was standing there with his mouth agape and his hands out waiting to catch his dance partner while the other guy went up to the top and got set to come flipping off or whatever the fuck. It was amazing, their gymnastic performance. But it was, a child acrobat with a grown man spotter doing, at one point, Kenny set up a table at ringside. Why? It wasn't a no DQ match. He was already beating the shit out of the guy. He stops beating the shit out of this guy that's a foot shorter and 75 pounds lighter than he is to go set up a fucking table that he doesn't need to give the guy a break so he can make a comeback on him. And then they went through a break and there was more flipping and a contrived exchange on the apron near the table so they could tease that. Obvious cooperation. And again, that was the worst one, where Kenny was actually standing there with his mouth hanging open and his arms out. Like, jump, jump, I'll catch you. So that dipshit could come off the top rope with a Hurricane Rana off the apron onto the floor on Kenny. And people retweeted that like, oh my God, it's so great. It looked phony. You could see through it a mile away. And it probably hurt. So they're really stupid. They're doing shit that looks phony and hurts themselves. And then they took forever to get up on the top rope so that Vikingo could give Kenny O a Hurricane Rana O, where he landed on his head almost. Then the other guy did the flip off the ropes and landed both knees in Olivier's fucking stomach. I'm glad he only weighs 140. It wouldn't end. Then the guy did another reverse Hurricane Rana. It nearly broke Kenny's neck. And did a double cannonball, a double flipping cannonball. So finally he puts Kenny on the table. And then he gets back in the ring. And then he has the look on it. Brian, have you ever watched diving competitions?
Not really, not much.
On Wide World of Sports in the old days, back when there was only 3 channels, you had to sit through some of the diving competitions to get to the Globetrotters segment.
I know Thornton Mellon. That's it.
Well, there you go. The diver, he will go out to the end of the board and he'll look down and he'll have the look on his face and then he'll walk back and then he'll look and he'll get his mental state ready and then he'll do the run and do the little thing like Kenny does with his knee, hit a little Canterbury, and then he'll fucking dive, right? So old Vikingo puts Kenny on the table at ringside on the floor and then gets in the ring. And then I swear to God, turns around and looks at the far ropes and has the look on his face like the diver, and then does the run toward the ropes like he's running down the diving board and hits the ropes on the far side. And of course, when he comes back, Kenny's still there. And he does a double forward flip over the top rope into a cannonball and puts Kenny through the table. Did you see the slow-mo replay that somebody put on Twitter of this?
I did see that, and I saw where his head hit.
The dumb shit that was flipping over the top rope, putting Kenny through the table, came down fast, and the back of his head hit the edge of the ring apron, which is as hard as the edge of the table that I'm on right now, or that I'm sitting at. And it should have knocked him out, and probably the only reason it didn't was because of adrenaline. And then the fucking midget sells nothing throughout this whole thing. He'll sell it, but then 10 seconds later, he's 100% 100 miles an hour because they got another move to do. But again, the thing is with this, Tony is risking, he's got another top guy that he's paying a lot of money to that had multiple surgeries and was out for 9 months, Kenny.
Who we hear is in a lot of pain.
Certainly treats it a lot. And they put him in a match to do this shit with some unknown fucking midget that nobody will ever give a shit about. And I don't know if he can even speak English, do a promo. Can you see this guy in the main event of a pay-per-view? But he's putting Kenny through tables. He's giving him these ridiculous reverse Hurricane Ranas. He's landing him nearly on his head. He's doing flips and coming off the top rope and landing in the guy's midsection. Yes, he only weighs 140 pounds, but he's a 140-pound cannonball with elbows and knees. And to have this for no reason except the masturbation of Kenny and Tony and everybody else that likes to be a human video game, you're risking a top talent for no reward whatsoever. So anyway, finally, Kenny hit the one-winged fairy 1, 2, 3. And again, we're going to draw a comparison when we talk about SmackDown between Cody Rhodes' 20-minute match and Kenny's 20-minute match, but in this case, Kenny is supposed to be a main event level guy, and it takes him 20 minutes and every move that he knows to beat an unknown child-sized dipshit that he's got by a foot in height and 75 pounds in weight.
Did you hear it was given 5 stars in The Observer? I'm serious.
Why would I doubt that you are serious? Of course it was. Of course it was, because it was better than Flair and Steamboat. It was better than Hart and Austin. It was better than Michaels and fucking Razor. It was, but what? Of course it was. Well, that's what I'm talking. When you can't even pick your spots to where you can be minorly critical just to say you've done it and then praise the other shit, and people might halfway believe it. But when instead you just, oh my God, yes, that fucking defecation with whipped cream was the best dessert I've ever had. Then people start going, okay, now we just can't. We can't take this fucking ride with you anymore. Anyway, speaking of a ride, as soon as that thing is over, the BBC hits the ring and attacks Twinkle Toes. And Claudio's shit looked good. A lot of it's just the lousy looking fake stomps that everybody thinks they need to do these days. But then suddenly, on the screen, on the video screen, there's an ambulance. And it's screeching the siren, and it pulls up, and Hangnail Page jumps out. He stole it and came back from the hospital. I swear to God, now they think he's Stone Cold Steve Austin. You can tell Tony loved Raw on Monday nights in 1998. Because here comes this fucking empty-headed dipshit that's never done a thing in the wrestling business. And now he thinks he's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And not only does he walk in the arena carrying a board, but they still have to play his music. He's on camera coming into the back of the arena, and then they still have to play his music for him to come out. Here he comes, and he's got a board. Did I mention he's got a board? He had a board. And the heels bail out, and he's standing there, standing tall, as they say. And Don Fallis comes up behind him and grabs his arm, like, what's going on? Because Kenny's still down selling, doesn't know what's going on. And Hangnail jerks away from Don, and Don takes a purposeful fake bump, a phantom bump, next to Kenny on the mat. And then Kenny gets up mad at Page and yelling at him like, why'd you hit my manager? Oh, for fuck's sake, we know he's an idiot, but all he has to do is watch television. So now it's going to be Kenny wants to do what's right, but Don's in his ear, and Hangnail will probably be instrumental in getting his head right or whatever. What did I miss out of this mess?
In terms of all the drama, to me, it's a giant step backwards. This is all the stuff we saw on AEW TV a few years ago. I don't think too many people were wanting more of this kind of stuff. We need top guys doing top things. You know, MJF's now working, I guess, with the 4 pillars. MJF wasn't even on this show. Jericho,
they had a little package of last week's interaction, but
yeah, and a backstage promo from last week. So I don't know about that. In terms of the match, I knew what to expect. So I went out with my finest sativa, did a few bong hits, came in and enjoyed the match for what it was. I wasn't watching it to see a wrestling match. I told you last week this guy does tumble salts better than anyone in wrestling history. I mean it. I've never seen anyone do it as well as he does. Now, he almost caved in his skull on one of them.
He almost caved in Kenny's ribs on another one.
That comes with the
tumble salt.
That comes with the tumble salt. So I enjoyed it for what it was. At one point, I was so into it, I was like, man, this could be a star-making performance. And then it just kept going and going and going and going. I've seen every tumble salt this guy could do now, unless he comes off the loge or the mezzanine. So I knew what to expect, and I liked it for what it was. I didn't think it was 5 stars or the greatest match of all time. Like you said, too many spots. You can't give something 5 stars if there's so many spots where it's clear that people are just waiting for something to happen. And you pointed it out, you know, in terms of the diving comparison. And he's not the only one to do it. El Hijo del Vikingo, I believe is the actual pronunciation they used.
Yeah.
The thing where your opponent's in front of you and you turn, you don't even run right away. It's like you take a deep breath, like, okay, I guess I have to do this. But you don't have to do this. Your opponent's in front of you. There's so many other options of things you could do as opposed to turn and run the other way. I'm sick of that shit. So I enjoyed it. I don't think it was 5 stars. I certainly don't think it was the greatest match in television history. as apparently some fans did.
What?
Yeah, no, there were people who thought it was the best match in Dynamite history, AEW history, television wrestling history.
Oh, boy.
Just insanity. But that's what it was. And again, the angle they started the show with, you got a little something for that at the end if you stuck around. So, not excusing it being the elite drama with Adam Page being anxious and worried about everything and the fucking callous Omega crap, because this stuff sucks. But the idea that Tony Khan started the show with something and ended the show with something, that's the one big positive I have.